What dish is extremely easy to prepare, but makes you look like an incredible chef? Nice try, BuzzFeed. Anything pasta related, and some meats and cheese and bam, you just made farfalle mozzarella linguine spaghetti Ferrari. Bada bing, bada boom. Herb butter. 1. Melt ya butter. 2. Dice ya herbs. 3. Put that shit in that shit. Hashtag herb butter in the club getting tipsy. Herb butter in the club getting tipsy. This is what I didn't know I needed in my life today. I don't know why, but everyone loses their minds for this salad. It's just chunks of watermelon, feta, mint, arugula, and balsamic vinaigrette with a tiny bit of salt. It's been a huge hit at parties. I also make this, minus the arugula, on skewers sometimes, too. I eat this in the summer, except I leave out the feta, mint, arugula, and vinaigrette. Wait a minute. Bananas foster super easy, crazy delicious, extremely impressive. You just melt butter and brown sugar in a pan. Add some banana liqueur, toss in some sliced bananas, add a little bit of rum, and ignite. Serve over some pound cake or vanilla ice cream, or both, and you're a goddamn dessert hero. I serve it over waffles with walnuts in the Monsieur Palmiers. They look fancy as hell, but literally, roll out some puff pastry, coating the whole thing liberally with sugar. Then roll the two sides into the middle and slice into pieces. 12 minutes in a hot oven and you have a bunch of caramelized biscuits which look impressive and taste so good. Came here to say that basically anything involving puff pastry fits this bill. I learned this from my sister, who used to make these ricotta and pickled pepper stuffed puff pastry hors d'oeuvres to bring to potlucks, just to intimidate people. Her words, store-bought puff pastry is like a prepackaged self-esteem boost. Soups. Use a slow cooker or pressure cooker and find stuff you like. Just come up with a fancy name for the soup and people lose their minds. My favorite gadget is my $10 handheld immersion blender. Caprese salad, tomato slices plus mozzarella cheese plus olive oil, salt, pepper, balsamic vinegar, and basil. Looks and tastes amazing. I know someone who went through a total anti-salt kick. For health reasons. Not at all because he actually needed to start cutting salt out of his diet. Far from it. He had just convinced himself that it didn't add much. That there were other, healthier ways to impart flavor. And he didn't want a future of arterial problems. And the salt wasn't worth it. One summer, he'd eaten a handful of his own saltless capreses. Then one day, late the same summer, I made dinner which featured caprese. With ample salt. He decided salt was a necessity, and has been back to using it ever since. How do you convince yourself salt isn't necessary? In the right quantities. It makes literally anything taste better. Also, it is probably one of the cheapest ingredients of all time. Also, it is necessary for life. I knew a guy who won't use salt. He's of the opinion that if you cook things right, the natural salts in the food will come out and add flavor. Now, some things are already salty. But that was some pseudoscience, oh boy. Greater than new. Glad you dropped hi monsieur. I loved all as it's absurdly easy and cheap. The key is an ungodly amount of garlic. Matar paneer as well, almost impossible to fuck up and incredibly cheap and tasty. Paneer can be a hard ingredient to find. I've tried to make it before. Not good. Tofu is my usual go-to substitute. Not the same though. Pot roast. Stupid easy and so delicious. Put stuff in pot. Put pot in oven. Forget about it for 2 hours. Start to smell it. Suffer 1 more hour. Heaven. Man. Do it in a slow cooker for 8 to 10 hours and it's even better emo. Edit. Yes, I know about instant pots, Dutch ovens and sous vide. Asterisk risotto asterisk. Say that word out loud right now. Risotto. For something that's really just rice with delusions of grandeur. The dish sure sounds fancy. And fortunately, not only is it as easy to make as it is to say, it's also one of those versatile offerings that can serve as a main course. a side, or even an appetizer. All you really need to do is boil some rice in some broth. Sure, there are ways you can spice it up, depending on the sort of risotto you want to make. You can add various vegetables or varieties of meat, but the base of the dish itself is just some bouillon-flavored grain. Once it's finished cooking, sculpt a little mound of it on a plate. Sprinkle some chopped up green onions or dried parsley over the top. Then serve it alongside a glass of white wine. If the rice is undercooked, claim that it's risotto al dente. If it's overcooked, say that it's risotto per gli. Either way, you'll look and sound like an experienced and talented chef. Upvoted for rice with delusions of grandeur, greater than risotto per gli. I can't believe no one has pointed this out yet. But here you go. According to Google Translate, per gli translates as for the elderly, which is hilarious. Overcooked rice for the elderly. Panna cotta. Easiest shit in the world. Looks pro as fuck. Edit. 3 tips for people who struggle with this. Half cream, half milk. Just cream doesn't get the wobbly consistency correct. Sugar, maple syrup, agave syrup to taste. Whichever you prefer. Gelatin leaf soaked in cold water. Hot water melts it, then it is fucked. Flavor. Vanilla pod, orange zest, cinnamon, whatever the fuck ever. Any alcohol put in when you put in gelatin. Scald the milk, cream, sugar and flavors, then take off the heat. Otherwise have fun with the shit-fuck mess you just made. Then add the soaked gelatin. Important. Let the mix chill before you put into the molds, otherwise it splits and looks crap. Forget about it whilst it cools. Go outside, play some games or whatever. You can speed the chill process by filling the sink with cold water and putting the base of the pan into it, then leave it. As long as the water doesn't get into the mix itself, then you have just fucked up. Closing curly bracket. Put into molds, glasses, coffee cups, etc. Stick it in the fridge and leave for a few hours overnight. Bask in the glory of preparing some simple shit whilst people bout your awesomeness. Take strawberries and cook them down with sugar and a bit of lemon juice. Let it cool. Pour over panna cotta. Be called professional chef for 5 to 10 minutes of work. Earl Grey panna cotta is the best thing ever. Also, my phone thinks panna cotta is a thing. Lunchables. They never see it coming. Exquisitely baked dough with a side of red vine tomatoes and cheese fondue. Roasted chicken and fall veggies. It looks really fancy and is always delicious. But you literally rub a chicken with butter and rosemary and spices. Throw some Brussels sprouts, onion and yams in a bowl with rosemary, salt and pepper. Throw in the oven for an hour. Uncover for another 30 minutes and bingo, you win. When my son was around 15, I taught him how to roast a chicken because, in his words, the honeys love a dude who can cook. He's 30 now and it seems to have worked for him. Steak. I'm talking. I usually microwave noodles for myself and hardly even use the stove because I am not good at cooking. I can make a steak though. Nothing super fancy with any marinades or anything. I usually just toss some steak season powder stuff on it and cook it. But it is damn good and makes for a nice fancy meal. I usually have salad as a side, so that's easy too. Steak is stupid easy. I didn't make it myself for years because I was afraid of fucking it up. Reinforcing this thought was the fact that my mom, who is an amazing cook, would give us rubbery steaks. Then I finally made steaks. Get grill hot. Apply seasoning. Grill one side 3 to 4 minutes. Flip. Grill other side 3 to 4 minutes. Done. I found out my mom apparently just bought really cheap steaks because she was budgeting for a family of 6. Edit. I did not realize people were going to take this post as an invitation to critique my steak cooking methods. Greater than I found out my mom apparently just bought really cheap steaks because she was budgeting for a family of 6. That critical moment when you realize a round steak and a sirloin are very different despite being steak. There's a time and a place for every cut of steak, no matter how cheap it is. Unfortunately, the time and place for cheap cuts is never dinner and my plate, respectively. Just use them as stew meat or grind them up. They're usable. Edit to clarify. I'm okay with the cheap cuts when cooked how they deserve to be. I'm not okay with cheap cuts just thrown onto the grill and served to me like that. A homemade pizza. If you can roll dough well and have good spices lying around, it's hard to fail making a good pizza unless you cook it too long, little. Honestly, most things. The hardest part about cooking is patience. If you can be patient in your prep, sometimes there's a lot of measurement, fine dicing, etc., marinade time, and in your cooking, low heat, most food will come out looking and tasting great. When you rush, things come out poorly. Personally, I find timing to be the challenge, learning how to assemble meals and time them so that the hot stuff is hot and the cold stuff is cold when it's time for dinner. Ice. Clear ice. Freeze some water after boiling and you can get clear ice in your tray of choice. You can also get a sphere mold to make clear globes and use the sunlight to ignite a birthday candle. It goes well in whiskey glasses. If you can get the water in a pointed shape, you can get a clear icicle to intimidate your enemies. Then by the time help arrives, the weapon will have melted away. If you're hungry, shave that beautiful chunk with a grater into a bowl and drizzle some syrup or puree for snow cones. Want to trick your friends? Put popsicle sticks into a tray of boiled water with some food coloring in it. Then freeze it. Give them the cool, transparent, colored popsicles. Bam! You just served disappointment on a stick. You sadistic monster. So, yeah, ice is pretty cool. I tried the boiling water trick and it didn't produce clear ice. Do you need to pour it while it's still boiling? Just use some leftover boiling water. I always make too much and keep it in the freezer. Pretzels. People think I'm good at baking or something. But no, pretzels are just easy to make. Really any kind of simple bread grandmas used to make in their homes. Challah, traditional Jewish twisted bread, is also pretty easy and looks a lot more impressive than the pretzels. Really, I think what bakers don't want you to know is that simple breads can be made really easily. And most of the time that goes into baking is waiting for things to happen. Was a baker with H-E-B, Texas grocery chain, and was terrified that I got hired as a baker with no experience instead of the labeling position I applied for. Making decent bread is super easy and it really just comes down to letting the dough rise and not rushing it. I make my own stromboli and spinach pies and people at work always lose their mind. It's literally just rolling out store-bought dough and putting meat and cheese in a line and rolling it. Same for spinach pies. Then I just throw them in the oven and check periodically. Also do pizza like this. I also make nachos, which as most of us know are hella easy. But I put a lot of restaurants to shame. Stacked high loaded with meat, 2 different cheeses. Microwave to melt cheese, tomatoes, salsa, olives, chopped lettuce, pickled jalapenos, sour cream and fresh-made guacamole. Now I'm hungry. Balsamic ice cream. Toast some pine nuts. Cook some balsamic vinegar in a pot until aromatic. Let some strawberries marinate in sugar for 6 hours. Put all of this over vanilla ice cream. Delicious. I've found for good pizza, it has to have semolina in the dough. Otherwise it's bread. This is the ice cream recipe. I think you got lost, lol. I think I did. Shocked face. Greater than pine nuts. Are you going to loan me $500 to spend at the grocery store? You can also do toasted plus shelled sunflower seeds as a cheap alternative. Smiley face. Carbonara. It makes the whole house smell incredible and it's so easy, but tastes so great. Fry bacon, onions, a little garlic. Cook your spaghetti noodles. Quickly drain your noodles. Add bacon, onion mix, and crack a raw egg into it. Stir until the egg is cooked and serve. Edit. Yes, I suggested a bastardized version of carbonara, but come on. We are in Rome. If you want to be entirely traditional, then you're probably past the dish that is extremely easy to prepare stage of cooking. Missing from your recipe is the large amount of Romano, Parmesan Reggiano plus fresh ground black pepper. Traditional carbonara doesn't have onion or garlic in it. Not that those don't taste good. I've just seen videos of Romans getting really upset when someone adds garlic to carbonara. I only add the onion, garlic to make my house smell like I know what I'm doing. Lol. That was my mom's trick when we were kids. Dad was due home and dinner wasn't started yet. Chop an onion and throw it in a pan to saute while you figure out what you're gonna make. Smells great, hun. What's for dinner? Cereal. Who doesn't like sauteed onions in their raisin bran? Gotta have something in there to make up for all of the missing fucking raisins. 2 scoops my ass. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.